Thank you. Um, can you do me a favor? Can you put the lights up? I just need to take a picture of this because I have to remind myself how shit scared I am right now. Thank you. So yeah, my subject is, it's going to be a lot of subjects, so it's probably going to be a bit like a Facebook page, actually, to be honest. So it's if you're not scared, you're not living. And the reason why I chose this was because I'm going to flip ahead. So for about 18 years, I was a graphic designer, and I loved being a graphic designer, but it got to the stage where I was kind of sitting at my desk with a mouse, count handler here, count handler there, just telling me to make things a little bit bluer, not that blue. And I thought, oh man, I can't do this for the rest of my life. But I didn't really know what to do. So I took some time off. So I took about 3 months off of being a designer. And I picked up these things. Does anyone know what these are called? Who said that? Right, you got the first question right. Can you give that to this guy? Thank you. So yeah, these are called pens. Thank you. They're not actually this size. This would just be odd if they were. So I found these things called pens, which I hadn't used for so long because I swapped digital for digits, and it was kind of the best thing that I ever did. And I started drawing where I lived in London, in a place called East Dulwich, and I drew these this illustrated, I guess, map of my local area, and I put it on a local forum, and I started selling them, thinking, I might get some sales out of it. The reason why I should go back to if you're not scared, you're not living. I decided to move away from graphic design. I had a mortgage, I had bills, but I just didn't like it. So I thought, I'm either going to be something else, or I'm just going to be stuck in this rut doing the same thing. And has anyone here surfed before? Has anyone jumped out of a plane with a parachute on? Has anyone jumped out of a plane without a parachute on? No, those guys couldn't make it today. So yeah, it's that thing like when you pass your driving test or you take your first driving lesson, you get that adrenaline buzz. And for me, it felt like, why should I just have those adrenaline buzzes when I go on holiday or when I do things that make me a bit more anxious, I suppose. So I decided to quit my job and become an illustrator, which is no mean feat. So I started doing these prints. I taught myself how to screen print, and it sort of grew and grew and grew. And I kind of took over the whole of London to a degree, which was amazing. And these prints were selling worldwide, which was awesome. Now, this was 12 years ago, and I'm proud to say that next month there's a book. My publishers are bringing out a book of all of my streets with stories in and everything. It's about just under 200 pages. I have a copy here, which is a publisher's copy, which I'm going to give to Mark, because Mark is such a generous sausage. So that's to say thank you to Mark. There's a little message in it as well, and a kiss and stuff like that, just so he invites me back next time, basically. So yeah, so I took a step. I got away from graphic design, and I started drawing. Now I've got a book out, which I'm really excited about. It's actually my second book. I'll come to the first one in a minute. But there's different elements of fear in what I do. And one of them was done a few months ago. This was for UK TV and BBC Studios in London. And they said, we've got this staircase. Just sent me a message. We've got a staircase. Would you like to draw on it? So I'm just thinking, a little staircase. Yeah, it's going to be fine. So I rock up to their offices in Hammersmith. And it turns out that it's like this sweeping staircase that goes all the way around. It's about 40 meters long. And I just stood there just thinking, yeah, what the fuck? I was like, yeah, but I thought, yeah, the adrenaline started pumping again. Now, a lot of people ask me, do I spray? I'm not Banksy, by the way. I don't think I'd be here if I was Banksy, to be honest. But no disrespect, Mark, one day when, you know. This is what I use. These are pens. And thank you, before you shout it out again. This is another pen. It's not the same as the other pens. This is a different pen, just to be sure. And to give you some context, this is the pen that I use to cover this entire space. And it's easy for me to say, yeah, this is what I use and this is the final piece, but I think it's probably easier, if this works, to show you. So that kind of puts it into context a little bit. Thank you. That was done over a kind of 2-week period, which was great. And I'm going to show you another project, which was another one of a sort of pant filler, I like to call them. This was for McLaren's. McLaren gave me a call, and they said, "Hey, Vic, it's McLaren's." And I immediately said, "Yes. You don't know what we want." I'm like, "Yes, I know, but I'll still do it. I'm cool with it." So I thought it was going to be a sports car, and then they said, no, it's going to be our launch into extreme E racing. So they sent me these plans, and I thought, yeah, that's fine. Okay, what do you want me to do? And they said, well, we want you to sort of work on trying to include the 4 biomes, which is desert, Arctic, sea, and another place, jungle, I think it was, where the cars race. And we kind of did things in reverse. They said, first of all, we need a T-shirt. So I designed this T-shirt, which I did quite quickly. It was over sort of 2-3 days, and we kind of agreed it. But it was to go on the T-shirt. Never actually got printed in the end, but it's still a really nice design. And then they said, can you kind of put that on the car, because we're going to launch it at COP26 in Glasgow, because we want to talk about the fact it's Extreme E, which is electric racing. So I was like, yeah, fine. So I took this, and then I thought, well, I'll just drop it on the car, and it will be fine. Now, this is the car, and I'm probably, I was probably up to about there on it. So it was a beast. It was so big. Now, we're talking about McLaren's, where they bring F1 cars into the building, and there's hundreds of them. This car was so big, they said there was a 4-centimeter gap on each side to get it into the building. And again, I thought, well, I've got 2 weeks to do this. This is going to be fun. And then started on the Monday. This is the first thing I saw on the Monday, which was like, bah. And then they said, oh, by the way, we need to photograph it for press on Thursday afternoon. So I'm like, and it's 2 weeks, that's 3.5 days? And they're like, yeah, can you do it? And I was like, yeah, of course I can. This is the final piece. So it's basically, it's the bonnet, the roof, the back, everything. And in between, they would then sort of photograph in the drivers with it as well. So then I was shuffled off to the side, and then I'd jump back on again. But it was a really beautiful car to do. But again, this took me way out of my comfort zone, because I'd never done anything like this before. And I loved it. And that's the thing that I'm trying to say, is that when you when you have no idea what you're doing, or if somebody comes up to you and says, can you do this? Just say yes, and then just ask people you know how you can do it, because that's what I do. And I seem to have got away with it, which is amazing. But I don't tell my clients that. The other thing is, don't be too serious. During lockdown, I was in my studio. Luckily, I had my own studio, so I could go to it, and I didn't see anyone. So, when I get up on stage, I tend to talk quite a lot, so apologies for that. But I suppose that's why I'm here, so I shouldn't apologize. So yeah, I'm a big Northern Soul fan. If you don't know what Northern Soul is, it's lesser well-known soul music during the 50s and 60s that was brought out. And then Northern England DJs would fly to America and buy these obscure records, and then they'd bring them back to like Stoke and Wigan, Manchester, and they'd set up Northern Soul Nights, and that's where the name Northern Soul came from. So because I was locked in my studio and I hadn't seen anyone for a while, I set up a little camera on the floor, I put some Northern Soul on, and I started dancing in my studio. And then I posted it on Instagram and LinkedIn for fun. And it was quite amazing, because that was 2 years ago, and loads of people still contact me now or write to me, and they always end on keeping on, or keep the faith, or keep dancing. So it's quite nice, because when you're into Northern Soul, there's this kind of written love of each other and the music and the dance. Unfortunately, I don't have any Northern Soul for you today. Otherwise, I would bust out some moves, but I'm not going to. So yeah, don't be too serious. And I'm going to kind of take the piss out of myself a little bit now, before anyone else does, because that's called control. And being a muralist, being a mural artist and a typographer, I have to be very, very conscious of, when I write things on walls, that they're not misread. So a good example. This obviously says, my pen is my sword. Now, somebody pointed out that it said something else to them. I couldn't actually quite work out what they meant, and this is the problem, when you're standing there and you're drawing it, you sometimes can't see the gaps. And another example, this was obviously for a snooker championships, which says, big flicks, the tightest of finals. I don't know what you people are seeing. It's just some words on a wall. But no, that's this is all just made up. What isn't made up is what I presented to a client once. This was for Havas in London at the headquarters. Havas, the big, advertising and design agency. And they said to me, we want you to paint a mural on the wall, and it's a football analogy. So it was from a football manager's book, Testa e Cuore e Gambi, which they said was head, heart, and feet. And because when I do my sketch work, I tend to really quickly sketch it out, and then I send it to my clients, and the clients will not really get much more detail than this. So I've kind of gone from being a controlled designer to a bit of a lazy bastard artist, really. But I get away with it. It's amazing what you can get away with nowadays. So I presented this, and they said, yeah, we love it. It's great. It's just, this is what it means in Italian. This is what I've been told. So they said, can you just change the E before you actually do the final mural? So this is the final one. It's Testa, Cuore e Gambi. So one tiny letter could ruin your life, or mine. I'm going to show you another video, because I'm going to take some water. And this goes back to the original title, which is, can't even remember now, Stay Scared, Stay Living, something like that. You can tell I didn't write this. The University of Kent in England got in contact with me, and they have different iconic campuses and buildings which are named after prominent figures. And one of them was the Turing College, which was in the science department. And they asked me to paint this enormous wall in the refectory, all about Alan Turing. Now, everyone knows Alan Turing and what he did, but I needed to include his background, his history. The fact that he was homosexual and he was demonized by the UK government, it's so much more deeper than that. There's, such a brilliant man, and his life was kind of sadly ruined by the British government. Unusual, that, isn't it? So I had to include the fact that he was married. His first love was a guy called Christopher that he went to school with. His eventual suicide, which I needed to include as well, and how he did it. But because this was for a university, I had to also be aware of the fact that I couldn't upset students. I needed to talk in a way that was accessible to them, that wasn't confrontational or they didn't get upset about. So that in itself is a really scary prospect because of the amount of people that we're going to see this final piece that I did. The university loved it. They made literally no changes to the sketch that I presented. So I'm going to show you this. The soundtrack I've borrowed from the late, great Fife Dog, and it's called Nutshell. And I think it kind of blends nicely with the subject matter of Alan Turing, but it also blends quite nicely with kind of how I look at my own life as well. Hopefully you'll look at yours. And it's a freaking awesome track as well.
The undefeated, unblemished, underrated, unfiltered, unafraid, unaffected, undaunted, unabashed, the undeniable, untouchable, unstoppable, unusual, underdog, unsurpassed, unyielding, unsupportive, fuck you and your feelings, unrelenting, unscathed, uncontrollable, unpleasant one, follow with me, feeling is mutual. Ha! And that's just me in a nutshell. Uncensored, unchanging, unbreakable, unconscious, uncouth, unbearable, unmerciful, unexplainable, unemotional, uninterested when dealing with unoriginals, unaccustomed to unproven rap flows, unresponsive to unapproved stage shows, that's unacceptable, unexciting, lazy fucker, fight for the uncanny and common, rhyme spitter. Ha, and that's just me in a nutshell, 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 said, that's just me in a nutshell, 5-footer in a motherfucking nutshell. The rebirth of the reborn as I rebuild, reconnect with this rebel, redefining raw skill. I realign, readjusted, refocus, reanalyze what's real versus bullshit. Had to refuel, reactivate, to reemerge, reevaluate, recalculate. Bitch, I return, redefine, reenergize, get reacquainted. Rhythmkins incorporated, roots we made it. Invulnerable, inviting, invincible, inventive one, which leads most inviolable. Get involved, invest in these youths, kid, invigorate, induce that old realness. Insecure, nah, more like inhumane. It's not a game. Shut your mouth, use your inner voice, stay in your lane, inaugurate those with incentive to want to innovate, insisting that those who inspire we will initiate. What? And that's just me in a nutshell. Nutshell, nutshell, nutshell. Ha! Fight dog in a nutshell. New York finest in a nutshell. Yeah.
Thank you. I think one of the lovely things about that was his some of his phrases. Those who can imagine the impossible, those who, yeah, you know the one. It's in there. I can't remember it. Sorry, I'm drying up here. Know your worth. This is really super important to me. I hope it is. I have a lot of conversations with different creatives, but also people from all walks of life, really, that you have to know what you're worth. And I think a lot of people tend at times to accept things that they don't want to do because they feel like they have to. And I'll give you some examples. In 2019, I had approximately 145 inquiries. And I kind of sat down And I kind of typed out all these messages. And I was like, responded, sent some stuff over to them. And then I kind of waited. And I kind of waited. And I kind of waited. And there's this thing called ghosting that people do, which I hate with a passion. So those 145 inquiries, I got 9 projects. And I pretty much got ignored by about 80% of the people that contacted me, which is a bit weird, because you think, oh, I'm popular. Oh, I'm not popular. So there's definitely this thing about that's not a lot of projects, which kind of amounts to 6%. That's my success rate for 2019. Now, a lot of people would be like, wow, that's shit, that's really bad, that's terrible. But for me, it's not about the 6%, it's about the clients that I work with. If I'd have got all of those 145 jobs, I would have been doing it really cheap, and I would have been working my fingers to the bones, just so that I can make them look great, but at the same time I'll burn myself out. So those 9 projects, were for Credit Karma in San Francisco. I was Pokemon's first collaboration, a West End show, which is actually opening on Broadway. This was in London. This is now opening in Broadway in November, and Australia next year. And again, another one for the University of Kent, which again was a privilege to do, because again with Virginia Woolf, if you know her background, it's not dissimilar to Alan Turing's. So for me, it's picking out the really beautiful projects to work on, and then just getting rid of the guff, basically. And all of my clients, and I'm not just saying this because I'm up on stage and they might see it, but all of my clients are incredible. They are polite, kind, open to suggestion. They always pay. Sometimes I have to give them a little kick, but most of the time they're okay. So I think for me, over time, I've realized what my worth is, and it's not worth less than what someone else wants to give me. In a world of social media, is anyone filming? Good. That's good. You're listening. Just checking. Yeah. So in a world of social media, we have become, a lot of us, somebody that we're not because we want likes or we want to be something else that is outside our social circle or of a life that we used to have, which is completely understandable. But for me, I always go back to who I am as a child because it's really important. And there's 3 people I need to thank for allowing me on stage. Mark is one of them, my mum and my dad. And the reason why I'm showing you these pictures is we all go through trauma in our life, and we can either go through trauma and accept that you're going to be a victim, or you look at things in a completely different way and change it to your advantage. You need to turn a negative into a positive. So my mum on the left, Georgie, she died of cancer when I was 3 years old. And my dad, Emmanuel, he never married again, so he raised me and my sister. So my dad was also an immigrant as well. He came from Malta, and he kind of lived in the UK till he was 64 before he went back home to retire. And he never took a day off sick. So my dad raised me and my sister. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is because I guess for the first 40 years of my life, yeah, I know, don't. For the first 40 years of my life, I missed having a mother figure, which is understandable. And I think when I became an artist, which was about 12, 13 years ago, I realized that my life would have been completely different if my mum hadn't died of cancer. Now, that's not to say that I don't wish she was here. I do wish she was here. But at the same time, I can't control the past, but I can look at the future and think, if she hadn't have died, would I be up on stage talking about my art in front of a crowd of 20,000 people. This is on camera, isn't it? Yeah, this has been filmed. So yeah, I'm appreciative of my mum, and I'm appreciative of the fact that she's not around, because to me, I still feel like I need to share my experiences and my successes with her and my dad as well. So I think if you go through life thinking you're a victim, you'll always be a victim. If you go through life thinking, fuck no, that's not going to rule me, this is going to rule me, you'll make life a lot easier for yourself. And there's nothing you can do about the past anyway. I also have this thing. This is a penny, not to scale, obviously, like my pens. I have, thank you, someone laughed, I like that. So I have this belief mechanism because I work on my own, because at times it's quite difficult. If I found a fiver on the floor or a tenner, that was like Christmas. I don't care about fivers and tenners anymore. We have this saying in the UK, which is find a penny, pick it up, then all day you'll have good luck. So, I'm walking down the street. We live in Peckham. It's not the nicest place when you're walking down the high street and there's weave on the floor and kebabs and dog shit and all that. But if there's a penny on the floor, I'll be fucked if I'm going to walk past it. So I pick it up and I put it in my pocket. And sure enough, and I'm not going to lie, sure enough, within a week, I'll get a job. And I have a piggy bank full of pennies that I've collected over the years. And it's kind of weird when I pick one up. I know within a week I'll get a call from someone. And that's my belief mechanism. So I need it. Don't ruin it, all right? It's true. If someone threw a fiver on the floor now, I would pick it up. It wouldn't make me as happy, though. Believe in what you do. Again, this is really super important. I think if I didn't believe in what I do, if I questioned what I do, I don't think I'll be doing the work or the projects that I've been doing over the past sort of 12, 14 years. And I love the fact that I can just mess around. So I can draw, I can doodle, I can do things off my own back without any purpose. And then I'll post them up and someone will see them, a company or an agency will see them. And they'll go, ooh, that looks nice. Can you do that for us? So I'm always drawing. Last year I took 2 months off and I went to an art retreat. My first one, never done it before. And I basically just spent the 2 months walking around the grounds and painting whatever I wanted. And I was in absolute heaven, and I loved it. And the reason why I do this is because it's what I do for a living. I think Confucius said, choose a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I don't really work. It's just, someone comes to me and says, can you draw something? It's like asking a kid to eat a bag of sweets, basically. It's like, yes, please. So yeah, and I'll give you a couple of examples of that. A few years ago, I got this bike from, I think it was eBay or Loot. It was probably stolen. I can't remember. It was about 30 quid. You don't question stuff sometimes. I turned it into a fixie and I rode it around. And then I drew all over it because that's what I do. I draw over everything. And I went to see my partner, Helen, who is a ceramic artist. And I was in the studio and I left my bike outside. And the lady who was next door, Katie, her husband was in, Will. And Will was the creative director for Brompton Bicycles. So he came round, he saw the bike, tapped on the door, and he said, are you Vic? And I was like, hey, that's me. And he said, saw your bike, would you like to do something for Bromptons? I was like, yeah, sure, what do you want? And he said, can you hand draw onto 2 white Brompton bicycles that we can then give away to the Brompton World Championships, in the Brompton World Championships, to the male and female winners? So I did. It was great fun to do. I got a free bike out of it. I should actually say that when I work for a client, I always ask for stuff. And I have this thing, if you don't ask, you don't get. 2 weeks ago, I was doing some work for a company, a cruise company, and I said to them, oh, you haven't got any free tickets? And he said, yes. So we went on a free cruise. So don't ask, don't get, okay? Don't ask me for a free mural, you're not going to get one. So I did these 2 bikes, and he said, it was such a success, would you like to do a special limited edition of 500 bikes, which will sell worldwide? So I did. So all the Brompton stickers were replaced with my artwork. It came with a bag and a screen print, which matched the serial number of the bike. So if it was one of 500 bikes, this would be one of 500 prints. And this launched in Taiwan at a huge bike event. And Will called me 2 days later and said, oh, just to let you know, we've sold out. All the bikes have gone. They've all been acquired all around the world. And they were overjoyed, which was amazing. Another good example, sitting in front of my telly, drawing these 2 bad boys, the koi and the hummingbird, for no particular reason, just because I wanted to try new stuff. And Edrington, the brewers saw me post. And I ended up doing a limited edition Famous Grouse Vic Lee collaboration, which was a wraparound on the box and the bottle. So just mucking around, basically, just drawing and then posting stuff. You're almost giving people an idea that they can't think of themselves. So I think from an imagination point of view, you give them the ammo to then own it themselves when it's not really their idea, but you can work really nicely together with them as well. I ended up working with Edrington for about 2 years afterwards, travelled all over Europe for brand openings and launches and rebrands, and also worked on all their personal gifts for their managers, which was amazing. And they are such a beautiful client to work with. So, listen with your eyes. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Listen with your eyes. The reason why I say listen with your eyes is I wear contact lenses. So if I didn't wear contact lenses, I could see here, basically. So I'm not sure what the system is in Germany, but my eyes are about -14, which technically makes me almost blind. I mean, it's great for my girlfriend. I wake up in the morning, she always looks stunning. Can you cut that bit out? So, yeah, listen with your eyes. So when I'm out and about, I kind of mentally remember a lot of stuff about where I am. When I take my glasses off at home, I have to remember where my glasses are. Otherwise, I'm literally like this. So everything is to do with listening with my eyes. And what I do when I travel are these things. These are called travel diaries. And I've done them for about 10 years now. So every time me and my partner go on holiday, I illustrate everything to do with the holiday, where we've been, who we met, how much things cost. Crikey, everything and anything. And it's amazing because there's so much stuff that you'll forget. And I still use my phone for bits and pieces, but I'll try and remember things that I'm where I am so that I can illustrate them inside the book. I think a lot of people rely on cell phones, mobiles, whatever you want to call them, to take pictures. But the pictures just end up just staying on your phone, and they have no relevance to anything apart from a vague memory. And they don't always capture a moment in time like you think they should do. Me and my partner Helen, we were in our garden a few weeks ago, and we'd gone to Vietnam about 7 years ago. And we were talking about something to do with Vietnam and where we were. It was one of those holidays where the weather was terrible, everything went wrong, but it was the most memorable holiday, and we still talk about it. And I think what you don't realize is that when things do go wrong, those are the best moments that you'll ever have, because they'll be something that you talk about for years to come. So, got to look at the positive. Got to look at the positive. Come on, people. So, yeah, we were talking about Vietnam, and I got the travel diary out from then, and we flicked through it, and there were loads of things that we forgot that related to the conversation we were having, but also surrounded that conversation as well. So these are really important. You should do it. You should definitely just scribble things down. Even if you think you're not an artist, you are. When you were a child, you used to paint, you used to make, sculpt, do anything. Paint on walls, I recommend it. I make a living out of it. Until your parents gave you, don't do that. So, yeah, just try it, see what happens. And I did a little experiment to do with taking pictures with your eyes. So I asked 4 people to draw a horse without looking at pictures of a horse. And these are the ones that came up with. This is my partner, Helen. This beast, yes, it looks like a horse, which is good. You have her niece, who is 19. I'm not sure what's happening with that back leg. But it's a kind of horse, goat type scenario thing. Kind of devil worshipy type horse, really. I asked Mark to draw a horse, and he's done it before. So this is actually a very, very good horse. Round of applause for Mark. Well done. And and then my personal favourite. This was not done by a child. This was done by a 20-year-old man. This is what he thinks a horse looks like. Now, if you see a horse like this, if you go to a stables and they say, here's your horse, do not get fooled. This is not a horse. I don't know where that Mohican's going on the back as well, but it's not going on the tail. I'm assuming that's a tail. This bad boy happened, 2020. Do you know, in Chinese philosophy, anything that adds up to 4 is a bad sign. So 2 plus 2 is 4. It was bound to happen. 2020 happened. I lost all of my work. I had some really juicy projects on, but I lost everything. And I didn't know what to do. And I remember going out with some friends right at the beginning when this all kicked off. And we were talking about their children and how their children were more affected by this. All the adults were like, oh, it's just a flu. It'll be fine. But the children were coming back from school and saying, I think I've got COVID. I can't go to school. And it kind of affected me a little bit. So I did this little YouTube video, which I think is still up on my YouTube channel. And it's to try and get kids to do their own visual diaries when they're in lockdown, so that it actually helps them. It's kind of like therapy. When you slow down and draw, you tend to think about things more gently. And it also calms you down a bit as well. So I put this little video up, and then I thought, well, I better start one then. So I kind of did. I started looking at all the news stories from around the world, as well as personal stuff as well, like my friends, how we were doing, what we were up to. Politics, obviously, I couldn't get away from. But things like in the UK, we had Captain Tom Moore, how much money was being raised, how much money was being siphoned off. It was huge. Every day I was reading, and I put a little post up on social media because I just thought, well, in between my dancing, obviously, of me drawing these books, and I thought, I'll just share some stuff because I need to keep people up to date with what I'm doing, basically. And there's one post of me flicking pages in the first sort of 10 pages of the book, just saying, I'm doing a visual diary of COVID, Corona, just to calm my mind down. And then it sort of blew up, and I started, I think it was like 250,000 views, thousands of people were writing to me from all over the world saying, you have to print this because it's really relevant to what's happening with us. And I was kind of like, yeah, that's kind of like asking a 15-year-old, child to publish their personal diary. It's not as easy as that. But I thought about it, and I thought I've got no work on, so I kind of thought, well, I should just do it really, and I did, and I self-published, I self-funded the book, so I did 2,500 copies of this book, and I did a pre-sale about a month before they arrived on my doorstep, and I'd sold. They were like £50 a copy because they were signed one-off editions. And I sold 80% of the 2,500 within 6 weeks of me putting the website up. And that went all around the world, which was crazy. And these are a few pages. And, whether you're a political person or not, I had to include a lot of the stuff that was happening at the time because it was quite relevant. But I didn't want to make it too political. Obviously, I threw Trump in, as a comedic figure. So apologies if there's any Trump supporters out there. I don't care. Just to give you an idea, when you self-publish, be prepared. Be prepared. Have someone you live with who likes you a lot. Like a lot. The left side is our normal house, little garden, and then the boxes arrived. There was about another 60 boxes in our hallway as well. We couldn't actually fit them in, and I was actually worried about the weight of the boxes, whether the house would actually collapse as well. The other thing about self-publishing and offering a signed book is I have to then sign them. So I had to open every book up, sign them, and because I'm a bit of an idiot, I'm going to say, I decided to sort all the post out myself. So I would sign them, wrap them, box them, organize an account with the post office, put them in bags. Every day I was dropping off probably 10 to 12 bags of mail to go all around the world. And I thought, I'm never going to do that again. And then I brought out the second edition, like an absolute idiot. The one thing about this book is I've never won any awards for what I do. And I kind of rarely enter awards because for me it's not about that. It's about working with clients that love what you do. And that's really super important. But I thought with this book, it was such an amazing book. I entered it into loads of awards. And it got the ultimate awards, like the World Brand Design Society. It got Black and Gold awards. The Black is the highest award that they offer out. New York Festival's got the Grand winner, Grand Cru winner, which was amazing. So this self-published book came from nothing. And I guess that sort of goes back to the original statement, which is staying scared and staying living, is do something that's out of your comfort zone and see what happens, because you really don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day. The other thing about this book, these two books that I released, was they were then featured in school curriculums in the UK and the US at university level, and they still are. I didn't want to just make a lot of money out of it because I thought that was not the right thing to do. And I wanted to say thank you to the people that had supported the book over time. So I ended up donating £7,500 of my own money to Fair Share, the food charity, which was an amazing feeling. And then earlier this year, I did a thing where anyone who bought the second book, I would donate all the profits to Ukraine Appeal, and that raised another £4,500. And I think for me, I've got to a point where I just think, well, I can't. It's not always about the money. Sometimes you've just got to think about how what you do can help other people. So this was an incredible thing. I'm not talking to you all directly, so don't worry. At times, it should have said, at times, you can be an arsehole. I'm an honest person. Sometimes I can be an asshole, and that's fine. I embrace that. God knows my girlfriend calls me on a regular basis. And here's the thing. How many people out there think they're an asshole? Ooh, look at you, perfect people. How many people out there think at times their family and friends can be assholes? None of you. Well, well, well. One thing I'd say about being an asshole, assholes are useful because if you don't have one, you're full of... Which, yeah. Another little thing I did for Mark, just to kind of finish on, is a couple of mugs. And it was a real honor to be here today to talk to you guys in wonderful Berlin. So thank you for having me. My name's Vic Lee.